we're going to talk about sparking your kids' writing fire this week. And again, I'm stealing all of my tips. And this week I'm stealing them from the fabulous Zanny Louise, who writes fabulous picture books and junior fiction and just beautiful, beautiful things.
And she's such a great person.
She is a great person. And she wrote a guest post for my blog at AllisonTait.com called 5 Ideas to Help Spark Your Kids' Love of Writing. So we were talking about creativity, and I asked her if she could come up with a post that would, look at the creative, just kind of getting those creative juices going. And that's what she's come up with, is this sparking your kids' writing, love of writing. And she has a couple of great tips, and some of them that I really love. So one of them is to take your kids outside. And this is something that we don't often necessarily think of, but if you put your kids in a different environment, like if you've got them sitting, like I always say this to kids when I do writing workshops and things as well, if you're sitting at your desk and you can't think of a story idea, like you've got some school paper due or whatever, the best thing you can do is walk away from it. And they all look at me like, what do you mean? Like, I've got to sit there and I've got to walk away from it and go and sit outside and put yourself in that natural environment. And it's quite extraordinary what a difference it makes. And Zanny, often when I follow her Facebook page and things like that, you often see her doing school workshops, and she's sitting on, on rugs
so nice.
and in teepees, and it just all looks gorgeous. And there is just something about being outside that really does help with that creative thing. And I've talked about the fact that I use that walking the dog aspect as a huge part of my creative process. I do a lot of writing in my head, and it's getting outside, and it's just, I don't know, there's just something about a tree. I think there's that Japanese idea of forest bathing. Have you heard of
There
that?
is. I've watched many a video on forest bathing.
Well,
I don't
think
know
watching
why.
a video is quite the
It's
same as
probably not
actually
the
doing
same,
it, is it? Yeah.
No.
But if
Well,
you
I
go
don't know.
out and you just immerse yourself in that green, it just switches on some other aspect of your brain, and I think that's a great thing to do. Now, another thing that she recommends, and this I thought was a lovely idea, is she does this exercise with her own children, where they create characters together. And this sounds like heaps of fun. I haven't tried it myself because my children won't let me blindfold them anymore. But you sit at the dining room table, and you blindfold the writer. So you've got the writer, and then you've got another kid who's going to be the illustrator. And the writer who is blindfolded has to tell the illustrator as many details as possible about their character, like whatever details that they can create, with their eyes closed, and they can't see what the illustrator is doing. So there's none of that. No, that's not right. You can't do that. But the details will be hilarious. And she says both of her kids took huge delight in just seeing what the illustrator came up with from that description. And then once they had a pile of characters on the table, they made little mini books, and each kid created their own story about, any one or more of the characters that they had on the table. I think that would actually be
she's clever,
isn't she? And I just think that would be such a fun exercise for like a small group writing exercise, or you could break it down in a classroom, or are you allowed to blindfold in classrooms? I don't even know.
Absolutely.
But don't you think that sounds like something that kids would love? I just think that would be such a fun thing to do. So those are 2 tips for sparking your creative fire, or your kids' creative writing fire. And if you would like to see the whole post, where she actually has some other ones, there's 5 of them in total, you can have a look at it on my website at AllisonTait.com, and just Google or search Zanny Louise.